What's going on, guys? As always, I'm Greg, you're watching the Car Passion channel, and today I'm talking about the parts that are going into the head of the VVT build. I already talked about the block, the bottom end. In case you missed that video, I'll go ahead and link it up in one of these corners for you to check out. Now, my original plan with this engine was to pull the head off and send the block off for machining, build the bottom end, and plop the stock head right back on. But the more I thought about it, the more I considered possibly doing a few upgrades in the head. That's really the whole problem with this engine build thing. It's just a slippery slope. Now, to do a fully built head would be pretty expensive, because I think to myself, well, if I'm going to do valves, I'm going to do springs, and then might as well do retainers, and then do shim under bucket, and then, well, I got to do cams, right? But then I'm going to have to do port work to take advantage of those cams. But I think I found a happy medium. Let me show you what I got going. So the first thing I want to talk about is a little boring, but I told you guys I was going to tell you everything that was going into this engine, so some things are less exciting than others. What I've got here is a set of SuperTac valve stem seals. These are the same valve stem seals I put in the 1.6 when I was burning oil under high vacuum. They did the job well, so I bought a set for the VVT engine. The second thing is some vintage Volvo parts, which some of you actually guessed what's in this box from my Snapchat, which I was very impressed with. But for the rest of you that are looking to upgrade your valve springs, I've got a little pro tip for you. These valve springs come out of a 40-plus-year-old Volvo. There's the part number for anyone interested in buying them. It just so happens that these springs have the same dimensions as 1.6 and 1.8 liter Miata engines. The cool part is they're stiffer than stock. I actually tested these with a valve spring tester, and it is a notable upgrade over stock. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I want to say it's around 30% stiffer. There are a couple reasons why you might want to upgrade your valve springs. Number one, if you're putting in high lift cams. High lift cams are going to open the valve a lot more, and they're going to have a greater distance to cover when they close. So you need a stiffer spring to help that valve follow the cam. If the cam gets away from the valve, the spring will cause it to slam shut, and that's known as valve float. Another thing that can cause valve float with stock springs is revving too high. Even if you have a stock cam, that lobe is going to be moving away from the valve too quickly, and it's going to cause the valve to slam shut. Third reason, probably the least known one, is it's good to upgrade your valve springs if you're going to be running a lot of boost. Because picture this intake valve trying to close and pinch off all that pressurized air. The stock spring sometimes doesn't do quite as good of a job at that. And these Volvo springs, only 63 bucks shipped from Summit Racing. Now, I don't intend on revving this engine extremely high, but I still want to upgrade the springs in case of accidental over revs as well. Sometimes flat shift doesn't work for whatever reason, or you miss a shift. You can actually get the engine to spin faster than your set rev limiter. So it's just another one of those safety things. All right, you guys know I always save the best thing for last. So what I've got here is a little box from SI Valves. You probably guessed what's inside already, but I'm gonna show you anyways. 16 back cut swirl polished stainless steel valves. Alright, so what's with all these fancy words, right? To pair with the slight increase in safety of the valve springs, I decided to upgrade to these valves. The stainless steel valves are a little bit stronger than stock, they're a little bit more resistant to heat, and they have back cutting, which is a performance feature. This part of the stem is actually cut down a little bit compared to the diameter of the stem here. Alright, so picture you have your intake port. You got your valve open, right? There's a certain amount of space around that stem that the air can go through. Well, if you make the stem smaller, there's a tiny bit more space for the air to get through. So technically, the back cutting is a performance feature. As far as the fancy term swirl polishing, from what I've read, it's just a name that's given to the manufacturing process that gives this a real smooth transition here. This is the important part, not necessarily the fancy look and finish. So that's all the parts I have going into the head of this engine. The next step for me is to tear this thing down, which of course I'm going to give you guys a step-by-step video on how to tear your Miata engine apart. Then I'll be able to send the head and the block off for machining, get the crank balanced, get everything back in, and we'll start building this thing up. I've got links down below in the description as far as where to get all these parts from and more detailed information. If you guys learned anything on this video, don't forget to leave me a like. Let me know what you thought down in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.
Back from the dead.
Valve? Get out of here. Summit sticker. Valve stem springs. Oh, your valve springs, dude. Now the first thing I want. Oh, dang it. So the first thing I want. No. Exploded everywhere.